I'm Ken Skates. I'm the Welsh Labour candidate for Fflint Wrecsam. I was born in Wrexham, grew up just outside of Mold. I've lived in both parts of the constituency, the Flintshire side and the Wrexham side, and I got into politics because I firmly believe that no person's future should be based on their background, whether they've got money or whether their parents have got money or not, whether they're advantaged or disadvantaged. We as a country need to give as many opportunities to young people as possible. Getting things done, getting things built. So I love seeing things developed, so I'm very project-based. So as an example, getting the Wrexham Gateway project off the ground, getting the Development Bank of Wales to headquarter in Wrexham, getting various big projects underway and then completed. So, for example, on the Wrexham-Liverpool line, seeing the trains with new livery, seeing the rail services doubled between Wrexham and Chester. I really like seeing progress, and progress that applies to everybody. I'm a big believer, especially in this day and age, that in an environment where lots of politicians will offer different groups different things and then exclude others, actually I'm a firm believer of making sure that you improve communities for the benefit of all. I can give you three areas of concern that's come up very regularly on the doorstep. One is a general concern about world events. For the first time in my memory, the name of an American president is being raised as regularly as the names of other politicians within Wales and within the UK. So general circumstances around the world and how that relates to how people are feeling, cost of living. So actually Iran is coming up a lot, which sounds bizarre given that this is a Welsh election, but obviously global events influence the way that people live in their daily lives. A second is health, making sure that there's better access to healthcare and waiting lists are reduced. And then the third is all about the environment right on someone's doorstep. So the state of the streets, recycling, bin collections, how the place feels and looks, whether schools are 21st century modern schools. So generally how people feel about their community. Accountability is everything when it comes to health services. You've got to have a strong and robust board that oversees the operations of the executive team in a dispassionate and objective way, always holding into account, pressing for constant improvements. But also, it's vitally important that the health board works with local authorities in order to deal with what we call delayed discharges, which is a major factor influencing a lack of throughput in hospitals. The health board also needs to work really closely with general practices, doctors' surgeries, because again, A&E services are often blocked because of a lack of access to primary care. So it's vitally important that health boards don't work in isolation, and that Betsy Cadwallader, in terms of North Wales, engages fully, and the board engages fully with councils, with GP practices, with third partner sectors within the care environment as well, with social care, because the solution to the problems that we face in health are society-wide and involve a huge number of organisations. There's no simple silver bullet to the problems that we face on health. There are huge demands on the health system, not least because we're living longer, and as a result of that, people are suffering more conditions, particularly as we grow older. And so we have to have a really rapid, effective and efficient process of seeing to people's health. I think one of the main pledges that will help with that in terms of Welsh Labour is the 48-hour guarantee to get to see a doctor. That will alleviate pressure on A&E services. It'll also ensure that people don't have the 8 AM bottleneck problem to deal with. So if we just go back to 2018, then what's happened since? So in 2018, you're absolutely right. We were pushing ahead with upgrades to the A55, to the A483. I left government for a while, from 2001 when all of these projects were in development. A roads review was conducted looking at whether the road schemes fit with our obligations in terms of the climate emergency, and concluded that many of those schemes should be paused and revised in order to take them forward with less embedded carbon, making sure that there are more options for active travel and bus schemes as well. Going back to that period, I was critical of the decision, but as a result of that, we are seeing better schemes being delivered. But we've now been able to consult on many of those schemes, and we're taking them forward, including the A483 congestion points. So I accept that there's frustration over the length of time that it's taken. As a result of being able to revise them, we will be meeting our obligations in terms of the climate emergency far, far better. But I do understand people's frustrations. Because I think in terms of where we're going with the new curriculum, what we're doing through our schools and our teaching staff are amazing. You know, I'd never ever criticise our teaching staff. They are phenomenal. What they're taking forward with the new curriculum will liberate teachers and enable teachers to tailor the curriculum around the needs of all learners. And that way, the system will be more sensitive to young people. And as a result of that, I think we'll shape better adults. So the curriculum is designed to ensure that young people develop as worldwide citizens, as confident and competent adults. And that includes, obviously, at the core of it, the literacy and numeracy skills that are necessary. So I accept that there are challenges, absolutely, in no small part as a result of underinvestment within Wales over 14 years of austerity. I mean, 14 years of austerity is a lengthy period which takes time to overcome. The taps are now turned on, we're investing more in education. I think the next government has to prioritise education because unless we have fully skilled people entering the marketplace, we're not going to develop an economy which will pay for services. So it's my firm belief that, that education and skills are the primary delivery area of a government, and it should be of any party. Education and skills are so vitally important. The new curriculum enables teachers to teach without all of the shackles that were associated with previous arrangements within schools. So I'm confident that it will result in better outcomes for learners. Well, this again relates to both global and national issues. We've had 14 years of austerity, 14 years of the public sector, public services being pretty much constrained, and that results in poorer outcomes in terms of health, in terms of education. It takes time to overcome, but with Westminster now under a different rule, the taps have been turned on. We are seeing more investment right across the board in Wales, and that will result in better outcomes. We're also drawing in greater investment and supporting more businesses to grow and expand. The key thing is how we make sure that people aren't economically inactive. Being economically inactive relates to a number of factors. You know, previous governments at Westminster tried to manipulate the unemployment figures by having different methods of counting people who weren't economically active, i.e. in work. Governments like those under Tony Blair and under Keir Starmer are making work pay better by raising the real living wage, by raising the minimum wage as an alternative to being on benefits. But again, societal change does take time. This has to be an endeavour that all parties commit to. Ending or at least minimising unnecessary economic inactivity is hugely important in terms of paying for public services. Well, it means that when I knock on the door and it's answered by someone from Ukraine, and there are many people who are here who have fled from that conflict, that they don't feel vilified, that they don't feel alienated, that they feel comfortable rather than in fear of being in Wrexham or Flintshire. And the Nation of Sanctuary was established as a direct response to what was happening in Ukraine. I think it's been portrayed very poorly and badly by some political parties who have a history of wanting to divide communities for their own benefit. But the Nation of Sanctuary is there to make sure that if you are fleeing from war, and it is a desperate situation that people have faced in Ukraine, if you're fleeing from that sort of terror, you're not going to find yourself arriving in a place where you're going to be vilified and portrayed as the enemy of a community. And that's why I think Nation of Sanctuary is important. But as I say, I do think that there has been a lot of misinformation that's been spread for party political gain by the likes of Reform and the Tories. So this relates back to a point I was making earlier, that if we're going to pay for our services, if we're going to make things better generally across our communities, across the country, we've got to make sure that we're getting the tax revenue to do that. To get the tax revenue, we've got to get more people into work, and we've got to get more people into better jobs, and we have to create better jobs. To do that, it's all about education and skills. So for me, I think the focus on education is vitally important, and there are a few measures there. So access to childcare for 2-year-olds is really important to enable parents to get into work. The lifelong learning pledge as well. It's vitally important because in this day and age, it's very rare that you have one job for life. So reskilling and upskilling is really important. And then also making sure that you don't have a tax on freedom. Plaid Cymru are saying that if you leave Wales to go to university, you're going to have to fork out an extra £1,000 because your maintenance support is going to be minimised. Well, I think that's a tax on freedom. We won't do that. We will help young people with ambition. And our focus on the new curriculum, making sure that we support particularly children who are from challenging backgrounds is really, really important if we are going to develop a society where there's health and wealth for all. If we look locally here in Wrexham and Flintshire, we'll have improved it through a number of means. First of all, getting Wrexham Myler Hospital up to scratch. I accept that it's an old facility, which is a sprawling facility. We've allocated £4 billion for redeveloping hospitals, including Wrexham Myler. We'll also improve things by making sure that there's 48-hour guarantee for primary healthcare. We'll invest in more schools again. We've had the 21st Century School Programme, which has been hugely beneficial to schools across Wrexham and Flintshire, but we'll continue to invest in education in that way. We'll make sure that we support people with the cost of living challenges. For example, £2 flat cap bus fare applied for all adults. We'll protect the £1 bus fare as well for young people up to the age of 25, and we'll protect free bus travel as well for older people. Public transport has often been ignored as a public service, but it's my firm belief that it shouldn't be a barrier to getting into work or getting into education. It should be an enabler. And it's an enabler for all people. Public transport creates wealth for all, and so people will see a franchise bus system and enhanced network across the area. They'll see the £2 fare cap for all adults and £1 for young people, free for older people. But we'll also see huge progress in terms of rail as well, because we'll see some of those major projects underway and also completed. For example, in Payswood, that'll be completed, which enables us to operate a reliable 2-train-an-hour service between Wrexham and Liverpool, and we've just signed a memorandum of understanding with the City Region of Liverpool, which will see direct services, in all likelihood the battery-operated trains, not just from Wrexham to Bidston, but all the way through to Liverpool city centre, and that's going to be hugely important for people, not just accessing work in Liverpool, but also, frankly, for their leisure purposes and to see family and friends. I'll serve everyone equally. I don't believe that it's helpful at all in a divided society for political parties to alienate some groups, to offer more to other groups, and to promise what they can't fund. Ours is a fully costed manifesto which we will deliver. We've guaranteed that we won't put up income tax, which is important at this time. Plaid can't make that pledge, so it may go up under a Plaid government, but when we're facing a cost of living crisis, I think you have to keep costs minimal to families. But I will not divide communities. I'm a firm believer that community cohesion is essential if you're going to have a civil society, and it frankly scares the hell out of me the way that the world is going, particularly in America, the way that we see divided communities and the sort of politics which is only going to lead to anger, to suffering, and to pain and division. And I will do all I can locally to avoid that and to serve all people with respect.